Hey, New York Jet fans from all around the world. Welcome to Laugh Through the Turbulence, a New York Jets podcast, the show that delivers you all your Jets content. Here are your hosts, John, Adden, and Monty. All the best to the New York Jet fans. J-E-T-S, Jets. Go Jets.
Monty, you know they can hear you when you're doing that, right?
Yeah, I love it. Let's go. I love that every time I get hyped.
Well, you know what? It's funny because Monty.
Dude, who doesn't get hyped up by Fireman Ed? Come on, man.
Dude, absolutely. And I think it's funny because you can actually do it a little bit louder. I say it every time. You can tell he's trying to be a little subdued when he's probably has his wife in the other room.
Yeah.
So it can't be too loud. So, but it's great.
Yeah.
We always say we appreciate Fireman Ed for doing that for us.
Yeah.
Thanks, I'm thinking about asking Ric Flair for that one.
Oh yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool. Yeah, but anyway, my angle's a little bit different today because the sunlight is what it is. Although I think, it's still not.
Yeah,
great.
it's definitely better that way.
I can see the rest of my fucking home, right? Anyway, so we have an interesting show today. We had a lot of hits in the last one, so we really appreciate that. We would like to know why you're watching now versus before. We have the feeling it's because of the Aaron Rodgers, Tucker Carlson discussion that they had, the interview. So we're going to kick it off with a little bit more of that kind of talk, but a little different because Harrison Butker commencement speech made some news basically because he was telling women to be kind of more homemakers and all that stuff, right? And it really kind of stirred up social media, right? And just the media in general, right? It was another one of those left versus right kind of pivotal discussions, right? And it's kind of interesting because I wanted to talk about it, even though it's not a Jets conversation necessarily, but it's kind of a conversation as it relates to just how politics are just general issues, right? And within things that happen in the NFL are just covered very differently, right? And I think that's a fair point, right? Because Aaron Rodgers tends to lean more in the middle, but even still, a lot of the stuff he says are very right wing, viewed, right, versus left, right? But it's just interesting. I just think it's an interesting discussion. So we're going to kind of kick it off with that. I'll leave one of you to kind of just go into anything you want to say about it before I start going off.
I would say first, John, why don't you take the lead here? Okay. So I thought Butker said some things that maybe came out wrong. And it's funny because it was a speech, right? So in theory, it should have been as polished as possible, right? And it shouldn't have said anything so direct, right? But bear in mind, too, he was at a Catholic college, right? Mm-hmm. And I forgot what the school's name was. But basically, he was just kind of looking for people to not, buy into everything that's kind of going on. Also, he bashed Joe Biden. But he was really kind of going on about hey, traditional values are not a terrible thing, right? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that message did not get carried out, right, by the media coverage. It was more of the hit points that really are meant to strike a chord, right? I mean, that's basically what the news cycle is now, right? It's just, hey, let's get clicks. Let's find the thing that is the most newsworthy to get attention our ways, because the news it's still a business, right? It's not necessarily pure journalism anymore, right? Yeah. And I just think, and even with a lot of what Aaron Rodgers said in the context of the conversation with Tucker, right? A lot of the things there also just got thrown in a different direction, right? I mean, there was a headline there where, and Monty sent it to us in our group chat, hey, Aaron Rodgers likes Putin, right? Or, and all that. But that's not what he was saying, totally. He just said hey, I like a guy who understands his country's history, right?
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't not complimenting him though. Right, I mean, he kind of really was, but it just wasn't the focus of the interview. It was only that one little part that he said something, and they made it.
But what I'm saying, exactly. But what I'm basically trying to say is just hey, if a really bad person does something good or something that you think is okay, you can't just shun them for life, or just for the thing that you don't like about them, right?
Yeah.
So, or the same thing with a person that you really like, right? If someone that you completely love, right? Let's say your parents, right? and they do something really bad. It's one or the other, right? So it's kind of like just like, be at least, neutral, when you hear something.
Yeah. So what I was saying is that I was actually going to read the quote itself because I have it up here, or some of the quotes. He goes, "I want to speak directly to you briefly because it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now about to cross this stage and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in this world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world." And then he goes on to say that, his wife, Isabel, he got choked up at this part, and that she would say her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother. And then he, went on to say, comments about, essentially being a homemaker and, basically trying to like talk that up as being kind of like an admirable like goal and, things for, for women to aspire to. And, I get it. There are a lot of women who, they're great mothers and they take being a mother to like, the level of a job basically. And it is a job, you know what I mean? But I mean, they put as much into it as, some people would who are climbing in their careers. But, I think, and the other thing is too, context matters, right? So the context is that Harrison Butker's a devout Catholic. His wife's a converted Catholic, and he was speaking at a Christian school. You know what I mean? So the things he's saying there are for that kind of, audience, but it is kind of what he believes. I think the problem though is like it's kind of tone deaf in a way, because it's like here he is speaking to all these women who are probably in soul crushing student loan debt now and telling them about like aspiring to be a stay at home, wife. I mean, it's just not realistic anymore. Like in today's America, right? Like even right here in New York where we're at, right? 95% of apartments that you could rent are not affordable to someone who makes the average salary here. Like that's a huge mismatch, a huge problem. Like money is important. You can't like the days of stay at home wife, that shit is over, man. I'm sorry. Like you're not like 95% of us are not going to be in that situation where we can have a woman just sitting on her butt, kicking her feet up and raising kids. Like that's not real life for most people.
Let me ask you this right now, right? Because Adnan's the one that doesn't live in New York anymore, right? Mm-hmm. Adnan, if I wanted to get a one bed, or let's say a home like you have right now in North Carolina, how much are you paying a month for your mortgage?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely more affordable, right? Like my mortgage, all in, property taxes, escrowed in, homeowners insurance, all of that stuff, I'm paying $1,900 a month.
Jesus.
In a mortgage, right? Now for this, so what I would say for this same exact situation in New York, my mortgage was $3,500 a month. Right, so it is definitely dependent.
Better rates, too. Not these rates, better rates.
Right.
And you had better rates, and you bought your place years ago. If you were to try to get that same place now, your mortgage would probably be
right. So what 45. I would say, so I think that matters also, right? Because talking about interest rates, I have it right here. I believe my interest rate is like 2.25%, right? So, but that was kind of nationally a few years ago, right? So yeah, so that's going to play a part in it as well, especially depending on where you live, right? So I understand, Monty, your point, right? If you want to live in New York City or Westchester or Stanford,
honestly, or most major metropolitan areas, you're not going to be able to have that life.
It's going to be difficult to do it on a single income, right?
Yeah.
So I think that plays a role in it as well. But I want to go back to something that you said, Monty, about like it being tone deaf. Mm-hmm. Because yes, I was going to say the exact same thing. There is a time and a place for where you have these discussions, where you have these conversations, and to say that to, again, and I think we know statistically more women graduate from college than men.
Yep.
So there's probably a good chance that
higher percentage of women.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So higher percentage that graduate. So like he was probably speaking to more women than men, right, in that graduating class. And to say it then, like you said, Monty, these women are ready to enter the workforce and have a ton of student loan debt, most likely. And now your commencement speaker is telling you to the equivalent of shut up and dribble, right? Like that is the most tone deaf, like not the right place and time thing that you can imagine.
I think it was more like, hey, they're like, that's the shut up and dribble take of it, right? Which is something and someone can see it at, and that's what the media kind of pinned on. But the way he was trying to phrase it was like, my wife finds so much reward in doing.
I get that, right? But I think it's like, John, what you do in your life, Monty, what you do in your life, that may not be what's best for me. What I do in my life may not be what's best for you guys. Monty, what your fiance does, right?
Right. Yeah.
That may not work for any girlfriend that I've ever had, right? So, I think that just because, yes, his wife is, fulfilled by being a stay-at-home mom and all the things that he said, that's great for her, right? Nothing wrong with that. But that can't be the reason to say that because my wife is happy, this, entire graduating class of women and every young woman who hears this should be happy being a stay-at-home mom. Now, I will also say, just on the flip side, because we want to touch on both sides, right?
Absolutely.
I will absolutely, defend his right to say it.
Yeah.
Because he has the right to say it. But
right, and it's what he believes religiously and stuff, and he was speaking to a religious audience. So I get
exactly. So I get that again. But the flip side again is time and place, right? You want to say something like that, you probably have a million podcast opportunities. Do it then, right? Pick the right place to do it. Now, I do want to give a disclaimer for me personally.
Come on here.
You talking about podcasting, but Rodgers just did that on there. Tucker Carlson, man. Time and place.
Yeah.
Fucking mom, I got you.
Now I want to make sure that I say this for myself. You guys don't have to. But I want to make sure that I say this, is that I do not agree with anything that Butker said. I think that women should have the absolute right and the ability to do what's best for them, right? Yeah. I think that there are plenty of women, like you started saying, Monty, that can have a career and are okay saying, I'll put off marriage and having children. There are the women that are like his wife that say, that's all I've wanted in the world. And then there are women who can do both. So I think that's the best way to kind of frame that and talk about it from that perspective.
But rather than say, and this goes back to kind of what John was saying, the way he said it was really kind of the biggest thing, because he's like, the diabolical lies. Exactly. Like, no, it's not a diabolical lie. You're rich as fuck, dude. You're a fucking, you get paid to work. Like you realize his entire career's worth of kicking, he's going to be on the field for less than an hour in his entire career, most likely. Yeah. Because if you look, like he's on the field seconds at a time per game, spread out over however 10 years or however long a kicker's career is going to be. Like, he's literally like got the ultimate, cush chill job, and like he makes millions doing it. So just no, dude. You weren't the right messenger for this. It wasn't the right place for this, and you didn't say it in the right way. It's just, he deserves to get roasted, right? But I don't also agree if like him like getting canceled or anything like this over it. I think that's fucking stupid. He's just a a guy with like kind of like a different dated kind of value set, and kind of living in a fairy world because he gets paid millions of dollars and his wife doesn't have to do shit. But like for most people, that's just not the case, and it never will be the case. So he shouldn't be saying that to maybe that crowd in that way. I think that's really where he fucked up.
Man, got the college.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Freedom of speech, right? You were talking about
that.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, and like Rodgers also had a right with freedom of speech, but he got hosed for basically exercising his right.
Well, because freedom of speech isn't freedom from consequence.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. You don't just get to say whatever you want and then be like, whoa. Nobody can take issue with
people also have the freedom of speech to roast the fuck out of you for saying some dumb shit.
Exactly.
So, but anyway, I think we said what we had to say on that. You got anything else?
So, who wants to see highlights of Aaron Rodgers throwing balls at OTAs?
That's what we came here for. Let's go.
Let's get all fucking arched up about it. So let me just do that real quick. Rodgers looks sexy. That is according to everybody that was there, including Rich Samini, who hates the Jets, even though he covers the Jets, basically, right? But basically, we're gonna show a clip of Aaron Rodgers just being sexy at fucking OTAs, and let's just garsh about it. You guys ready? You see it? Oh, look! Oh, gosh! Look at that ball spin. Look at it spin.
Perfect.
Mosley. Oh, gosh.
Gibson.
Oh, gosh. Look at that helmet. Look at that helmet.
Yeah, yes.
I
love the helmet. Yep.
Oh, my God. The fucking helmet, dude. It just looks so good. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Great way of staying on balance too by Gibson. That probably in real life would have been a tackle right there, but still, great play, great completion.
Rodgers was 10 of 11 on all passes except for like one sailed pass to Gibson, and then that pass immediately after.
So I had the stats that Connor Hughes reported. He said Rodgers was 13 for 15 with 3 touchdowns. In 7-on-7 work, he went 5 for 5. And then he went 8 for 10 in 11-on-11 work. The touchdowns were to Xavier Gibson, which was the one you just saw. That was a 40-yard seam. Then he actually hit Lazard underneath in the red zone.
Nice.
And, Lazard got open on his own. That wasn't any magic work by, it wasn't blown coverage. It wasn't anything like that. It was just a good Lazard play, which speaks to, what we've spoken about before is that, Lazard should be elevated by the return of Rodgers. And like you said, smash the fucking over on Lazard, any Lazard stats and any betting that you have access to. I think that's a safe thing. I'm not a handicapper or anything like that. I'm not a professional. That's not professional advice, but I'm just saying you can, And then the other touchdown was to Garrett Wilson. It was a short touchdown in the red zone, and he was perfect in the red zone.
Yeah. The thing that I want to mention with Lazard too. So not all that is Lazard, right? A lot of that is Aaron Rodgers reading the defense, calling.
Yeah. The Wilson I meant to say
that system, right, and all that, right, which enables someone like to know, okay, I have this in front of me, and I'm told this is what I'm gonna do now. The Wilson touchdown was a very tight window, so it was very much Aaron Rodgers doing Aaron Rodgers things. So he still got the eye and the mind and the vision and all that. So I think we're in for a good ride this year.
Yeah, I think for me, a couple of things stood out, right? And listen, the stats are great. All looks good. It's shorts and t-shirts, right? I'm not going to read too much into it. I don't think it's anything like groundbreaking, right? But the the 3 things that stood out to me most about these OTAs. One is that Aaron Rodgers doesn't have any limitations, right? He participated in everything. He wasn't off to the side, working with the injured guys, Mike Williams and AVT. He was out there, for everything. So I think that's a really good sign. The second thing that I'll say is that it kind of alludes to what we've been saying in regards to Aaron Rodgers. And Connor Hughes tweeted this after he tweeted those stats, Monty. Mm-hmm. Or like right in between when he was tweeting stats. He had said that, man, you know what? I forgot what this is supposed to look like, right? Because of what the Jets and the Giants really have went through with their quarterbacks. Yeah. And I think that goes to what we've been saying about we don't need Rodgers to be a top 3 quarterback. We need him to be top 12, 15, 16. He made the offense look competent. Yep. Move the football, right? Anything above that is gravy, you know? And so I really think that all of these people are saying Rodgers isn't elite anymore. Don't need him to be elite.
It doesn't matter, right? Yeah. He could be, as long as he's a top half of the league.
Top half, right? 16th or
16 better. Or better. That's amazing for us.
Yeah, that's all you need with the additions to the offensive line. And this is to my third point. Again, I know it's shorts and T-shirts, but I love that Tyron Smith first is fully participating, and Zach Rosenblatt, I believe it was, had tweeted out that, or maybe it was Hughes, one of them tweeted out that Tyron Smith is just stonewalling everyone that goes near him, right? Now, again, not a pass rush, not any of that, but yeah, he's just going to be such a big addition if they can keep him healthy and he can play, 14, 15 games. So I think those are the 3 things that stood out to me. Rodgers and Tyron Smith, basically full goals, right? And I think that is such an important factor for this team that, they're going to be in really good shape. To touch on the defense a little bit, I think we might want to I know we're enamored with Rodgers and everything, but on the defensive side, I think the most promising thing that I heard, and again, this is the, season of in best shape of his life, but heard some promising things about Will McDonald, not just about his physical shape, but more so about his focus, his preparation, right? So I think last year.
Did he gain some weight yet?
He gained they said he gained a little bit of weight. So I think he's a little bit bigger.
Muscle weight, not
good.
Yeah, so I think
that's what he needed.
Jermaine got comments from looking leaner, and he was like, "I'm up 2 pounds."
He's up 2 pounds.
That was Connor. You said that. Yeah.
That was so funny.
He's more muscle now too.
That's great.
You gotta keep up with that smoking hot wife.
Yeah. But yeah, I
think a young hot Zach Wilson's mom. But okay, anyway.
I think I think anything you could have asked for out of OTAs, you got.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of what I read, even out of today's session, was, Garrett and Aaron Rodgers have just picked up where they left off, that the connection is just as strong and it's going to get stronger. So I think, again, really good shape. The next kind of marker is second week of June where mandatory minicamp starts. Mm-hmm. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see the whole team. One thing I was disappointed about is that Hassan Reddick didn't show. And so, being a new guy, I'd like to see him in the building for everything. I know these are voluntary workouts, but if Aaron Rodgers is there and Tyron Smith is there, I feel like
everyone should be there. Absolutely.
Right? So that's the one disappointing thing for me that he wasn't there.
Yeah. I mean, listen, he is kind of a mercenary, so to speak. He's not a Jets lifer. He won't be here probably in 2 years, or maybe even next year.
But neither are Rodgers and Smith. They're not.
Yeah, but Rodgers is but Rodgers has already been here a year, and he's the leader of this team. He's if he wants to lead this team, he's got to lead, and leadership means that. Reddick's not really going to be a leader. He's just going to be a producer and a role player and a force on that defensive line. And he's got so many years of production under his belt. He's a professional. He's done it on multiple teams. I'm not worried about that much, but I guess you're right. It would be nice to see everyone in the building for sure.
Of course, it would be nice, but mind you, like his role, as you said, is very specific, right? It's you start there. It's not like it's as much teamwork, right? I mean, the scheme on a blitzing front is usually fairly simple, right? Sometimes there's some overlap and switching around, pull arounds, right, and all that, but it's fairly simple. It's about staying fresh, I guess. I don't mind it. The guy's experienced as fuck, so if he's not there, so be it. I mean, like Mike Williams, I think he was there, but he was on the sideline.
But I don't think Breece Hall was there either. Was Breece Hall there?
Well, that's another guy.
He was.
Shit, that's another guy.
You know what's actually interesting, and it's funny. Before this, I was actually commenting on Twitter on the Buffalo Jet fan, who I actually respect a lot. I like his contact. He's a good dude, but he had an absolutely freezing cold take about Hassan Reddick. He said that he put this whole post about how like basically he named all the positions and like what was an upgrade or a downgrade from last year. Yeah. And it was a great post, but the only thing about it was he said that Huff that Riddick was a downgrade from Huff. Yeah, he said that Huff was like more disruptive on his snaps or whatever. I just was like, I couldn't let it stand. I had to comment back. I was like, absolutely fucking not. I posted the infographic where it shows all the different strength of assignments for the defensive guys. Like Riddick had a way hard. He had comparable level production. Huff was obviously more productive because he played less snaps and was still able to be very productive. Yeah. But he had comparable production level, and I think he had as many or more sacks than Huff did last year.
He had more, I think.
He had more sacks. Yeah. And he's been doing it for longer. There's no fucking way that in this year that Reddick is a downgrade from Huff. At the worst, it's a break even. I think it's an upgrade. The only way it's not an upgrade is Huff is young. So Huff has his whole career in front of him. Reddick's kind of on his way out. No, not necessarily, but getting there.
I think is really interesting about that, just the way it worked out. They basically swapped positions, right? So it's going to be, it'll be really easy to compare the two, I feel like. If Bryce Huff goes off and Reddick doesn't, then it's kind of like, oh, all right, I get it. If they're even, totally cool. Yeah. If Reddick goes nuts and Huff has a so-so season, then it was the Jets system, right? As opposed to Huff. So I think it's going to be really interesting just watching that comparison. Definitely something that we should keep track of, like during the season, to see like what they look like just comparably.
So it's interesting, Huff, right? Let me just go real quick.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, basically Huff lines up his best optimal lineup, right? Is wide 9, right? Which is where you're really fucking outside away from on the other side of the tackle's shoulders, right? And pretty much when you line up like that, you can only really be a pass rusher, right? And not so much a run stuffer as well, right? Reddick can kind of line up a whole bunch of different ways, but particularly on either side, either right in front of the tackle, on the inside and the outside. But that's kind of the flexibility that you have with someone like with Reddick, which is why that guy gets so many snaps, right? Mm-hmm. And Huff was still limited last year, 45% of all snaps, right, throughout the whole season. So I would say it's a wash, to be fair, right? Because in a pass rushing situation, you have to tell me who do you want, Reddick or Huff? Right, in that system, right, you probably want Huff, right, just because it's very specific for what the need is there, and you can execute that at a high degree, right? Mm-hmm. But on a more every down role, you need someone that can do both ways and kind of line up, in even uncertain situations where you don't quite know if it's pass or rush because it's like 34 or whatever it is, right? You're going to need the Hassan Reddick type there, so. I understand it, right, in terms of why that switch was made, right?
Yeah. Real quick, I just wanted to jump in for everyone listening. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We really appreciate the support. We've had, a big uptick on views in our last video, so we want to start, finding out who our audience is, and speaking to you guys more directly. So we do that by seeing your comments, by hearing your feedback. Tell us what you want to see, and that way it makes our content better, and it helps us help you with all your Jets content.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I'll double down on this. If we get 2,000 views on this video, I will get a Jets logo tattooed on my butt cheek.
All right. Let's see it.
No. It's got to be somewhere. It's
got to be 2,000 views.
2,000 is good. Dude, that's like
listen to me.
Yeah.
It's got to be somewhere visible. Right?
No,
like it can't be.
I can just like go up like this and be like, yeah, let's go, Jets. Mama won't see it, won't hurt her.
Put it on the top of your head.
No, he's got to work for a living, dude.
You can wear a hat. It's fine.
In the office.
This logo, which is my favorite logo in all of sports.
Yeah, put it right.
I think that's a fair one. And then and because 2,000 views, that's good. That's like a Jake Asman,
that's like Waterboy the Fonz, right?
Blewett, Buffalo Jet fan. That's like their numbers. So if we crack their numbers, we'd love to do that.
2,000 views.
Get all the friends. Tell your friends. Get these views up.
If we get 4,000, I'll do it also. And if we get 6,000, then Monty's got to do it too. All three of us.
That's fine. I'm down.
Okay, just so they know.
Very, very, very important. The hard hitting journalism that you want, folks.
And every episode that passes, I add another 200 to the count.
Yeah.
We gotta do something super viral for that to happen. And you know what? We'll record it too. Fuck it. Right now. Why not? Right, for the show, for the fans. But yeah, tell us why the fuck you're listening to us. That's always key.
Yeah, exactly.
We had a couple other topics. I know, Monty, you're going to talk about the roster ranking stuff. I mean, you can do that.
No, let's. I think we're going to hold off on that one because we want to do a little more of a deep dive on that because we got to look at all the.
All right, fair enough. Right. So you want to go about Chardavius Ward comments on that show on the Good Morning at Football?
Yeah.
All right, so basically Chardavius Ward throws shade at Garrett Wilson. Basically, he was talking about a lot of the receivers that he was kind of, going to have to cover this year because he is one of the top corners in the league. Let's be fair.
He is
top 10, somewhere in that range. Right?
Plays in a top defense, obviously for a Super Bowl team.
And,
so
week 1, he's going to have to go against.
He's a G. He's a star.
Garrett Wilson, right? And he kind of stuttered on the name. Mm-hmm. And then said Garrett Wilson, and then asked if that was his name, right? Now, Monty thinks he's throwing shade because that's what the media said on it.
That's not just me, bro. There's plenty of people not in media, just Twitter people, podcast people, like us. Like I think it's listen, dude, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons with absolute ass throwing him the ball. Garrett Wilson is basically a household name if you watch NFL football. If you're a player, you know who the hell Garrett Wilson is. I'm sorry. Like there's 0% chance he's top receiver in the league. No fucking shot that he doesn't know Garrett. And it's an easy ass name. It's not like it's Chardavius. You know what I mean? It's not like a name like that. It's Garrett fucking Wilson. That's an easy ass name. There's no way he didn't know who that was.
I want to say this. First off, it took him a little while to figure out the name, right? He is on TV, right? And that guy hasn't really had that much coverage on TV, right? So maybe there's a little bit of nerves there. And, he wants to, and he didn't ask like who that bum Garrett Wilson. He didn't say anything like that. He was stuttered for a little bit, said Garrett Wilson, and he's like, that's his name, right? Just because, like, the what's her face that she was doing the interview, right? Kind of just like was listening, right? But like basically, I think it's more nerves on the camera, and he was just checking himself before he wrecked himself, right? Because Garrett Wilson's he's gonna do his fucking thing this year, especially if he's got a healthy Aaron Rodgers. And like, look, he was Offensive Rookie of the Year. Everyone knows who he is, and he's in the biggest TV market, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think he was throwing shade. I think literally like. This guy and every NFL player in the league needs to know literally everyone in this fucking league, right? Except maybe some depth guys, right? And like maybe he just drew a blank there being on TV, right? That I'd give him the benefit of the doubt, given that Chardavius Ward hasn't really shown any signs of like talking trash or anything like that.
Possible, yes, absolutely possible. Likely, hell no, not in my opinion.
I would say, I see both sides of it, right? Like. yes, if you are a corner in the NFL, you should know who Garrett Wilson is without skipping a beat. I can understand, okay, maybe there are nerves. It is what it is. But I think the nerves would come if it was Kay Adams that was doing the interview, I believe. If she had asked, if she had asked, like, you might have to cover the receiver that the Jets just drafted. And he was like, Makai Corley? Is that his name? Then I'd be like, oh, no, I get it. You know Garrett Wilson, so don't.
He's been in the league 2 years already.
Yeah,
and
don't play coy. He was the 10th overall pick, right? So, with all of that said, either way, whatever it was, it's also May, right? So, like, I feel like by the time September comes around, as long as Ward doesn't really say anything else, it's not that big of a deal, right? But again, to Monty's point, you should know, you shouldn't have to ask. That's his name?
Yeah, so
I think that's the point.
Yeah, so the question was if Chardavius Ward will be shadowing. He was asked directly if he'll be shadowing Garrett Wilson, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'll be following Garrett Wilson around." That's his name, right? Like, no way.
So that
you know the name, bro.
It took a while to think of the name, right?
You know the name. Well, you know the name. I'm sorry. Like, you don't got to be a New York fan. Or
but she also said the name.
True.
Right? Like, she said the name. So it's not like she wasn't like, who are you going to be shadowing? Oh, man. What's his name? Garrett Wilson, right? Yeah, him. She said, will you be shadowing Garrett Wilson? Was the question? Right?
You know, I can see a rivalry developing between the Niners and the Jets. I could see a path to that happening, because of Saleh, and his connection to the team, the fact that they're a really, really good team and they don't probably take us as seriously as maybe they should, I don't think. And then I could definitely see us, like, I think for sure they beat us, but I could see us upsetting them because the Jets have been known to show up in those games where it seems like, we would have no shot. Like when we beat the Eagles last year, no one thought we were going to beat the Eagles last year and we beat them in our house. So like, I could see that being another like Eagles Jets situation where we beat them by a close margin. And then now this whole rivalry develops and I'm all here for it. I would love to see it.
I agree with you, but I only think that happens if the Jets win or lose close, right? Yeah. Let's say opening day, bad day, they lose 31-13, right?
Yeah, I don't think
it's just that it's not around. But I agree with you. I think like if it's a close game, especially if they win, because if the Jets win that game, then the Super Bowl hype is going to start, right? Mm-hmm. If you beat San Francisco in San Francisco on Monday Night Football opening week, where the whole country's, the whole football world's eyes are on you, and you win that game, then it's going to be, could we see this again in the Super Bowl, right? And so I think, like, it's going to be a really interesting, and just going back to the schedule on a quick side note, the more and more I think about it, like, this is the opening game I wanted, right? Let's go there, make a statement, and then the schedule becomes manageable after that. But yeah, I agree with you, Monty. Can definitely see a path to a rivalry for sure, especially with all the similarities, right? Like players coming over, coaches coming over.
Really have a rivalry, like in reality, like AFC versus NFC rivalries don't really do their, they don't match up enough, right? I mean, it's every 4 years unless you get lucky on the every 2 year cycle because now we have 17 games. We're about to have 18 games. I don't know how they're probably going to add another AFC versus NFC.
That's what I'm saying now with the whole 18 games that they're pushing for.
But I also think, right, like, look, the Chiefs and Niners are rivals because they've met in the Super Bowl a couple of times, right?
Right.
If that's what makes the Jets and Niners rivals, I'm all for it, right?
Bring it on.
So, like, I think that it's – and also it's a little bit different, right? Because, Monty, like you said, Robert Saleh, they've kind of interchanged players. I think they brought in Isaiah Oliver.
We got Kinlaw.
Right? Yeah, so guys that have played in the system. So I think it's just an interesting note, but it's going to be a great opening day. I can't wait.
Yeah.
We said that last time we lost our fucking quarterback for the fucking
Well, listen.
Well, we
man.
won the game. We won that game.
We won the game.
Obviously, I would have rather lost the game than lose Aaron Rodgers, but we did win the game.
But listen, and also let's stop making that the narrative every time we talk about the opener. Right? Let's get that bad,
He came over adversity beyond belief, and amazing plays from key players.
Yeah, listen, and look again. Like, we don't have to keep bringing it up every time we say opening game Monday Night Football. That's how Rodgers got hurt. Like that idiot Mike Greenberg who's like, "Don't send Rodgers. I've seen this movie." That's a loser take, right? Yeah. Like, look, it happened, and we'll see, and we have to move forward. And I say we don't bring that up like every time we talk about the opener, every time we're excited about the opener.
Agreed. And
go ahead,
I was going to say, speaking of, defensive backs shadowing receivers, I think it's time to
there you go. You're
move it on.
Yeah, I was really about to segue to that because we were talking about that, right? But rumors Sauce was on an interview somewhere, and he basically said that it might be a situation next year where he starts shadowing top receivers, which is very interesting, right? Just because it's not a thing that he's been shown to do at the NFL level, right? He did it in college, right? But in the NFL level, he hasn't done it. And the main reason for that is because, well, it's really DJ Reed is just really mathematically way better on the right side than he is on the left side. There's just something, QB's left side, right? Sauce is on the right. Yeah, that's right. Okay. But that's just like DJ Reed, just for some reason, like the math just proved out. Like he's just so much better. When the right-handed QB is has to throw across his body versus on his own side, right? And I don't know. I guess that's the stronger side. DJ Reed is technically better at guarding the weaker side of a right-handed quarterback. And it's funny because last year he did get torched in one game really badly, and it was the Tua game, right, in Miami. It was a lefty, right? So it's interesting in itself, but I mean, I don't hate it so much. I almost don't want to mess with the bad formula, but I understand why. And the reason why is because the Jets are going to be in situations where there maybe is a little bit more opportunity, right? And also, like, guarding the number one receiver is always a key thing. But we can look at these matchups that Sauce has this year, the key ones that PFF broke down, right? I have it up, and I'm going to pull it up. It's right here. Look at Sauce looking all nice and mean. Can we see that good enough? I guess. Yeah, I guess someone can. But basically, this is from PFF. These are the notable QB matchups. And I look at this list, and I actually think to myself, like, yeah, these are a lot of really good receivers, but not too many quarterbacks that I think can do what they have to do to do enough to basically make Sauce pay, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing. I think the scariest duo with quarterback and wide receiver on here is actually week 16, Stafford and Puka. And it might end up being Kupp in the end, right? Because maybe Puka comes down to earth, and Kupp we know was great, but was hurt last year. So that's interesting in itself for me. I think that's the toughest matchup. But if we go,
I think Tyreek, just because he's so fast. Tyreek to me.
Well, I mean, let's rank these wide receivers, right? And then we rank the quarterbacks as well on a 1 to 10 scale, right? Okay. How about we do that, and we kind of just like average out what the toughest part of this lineup is, right? Okay. Brandon Ayuk is probably we could consider him a 9 out of 10 at the very least, right?
Yeah, I think he's a 9.
Okay,
now
Now Purdy is a precision passer, which is what you need on Sauce, right? I think he's more like an 8 in terms of precision. A great quarterback, a top 10 quarterback in the league, but I don't think it takes a certain kind of arm and precision passing in order to get. I mean, if he was such, you see what I'm saying on that one, right?
Yeah, he's still new too. He's still growing. Like, there's still, yeah.
So let's call it an 8.5. Okay, in terms of difficulty of matchup, right? Okay, you got Hopkins, right? Hopkins is probably an 8 these days, right?
I would say 7. I don't think he's an 8 these days.
Okay,
I think he's older, right? So I would say a 7.
I think he's still good. I think he's just more. I think he's more quarterback dependent, and he doesn't have the quarterback.
Yeah,
I think that's what it is. I think
he was back when he was in Houston.
Yeah, I think talent wise, he is still an 8, but I think he'll present like a 7 because of the fact that his quarterback is Will Levis.
Right, and I think that's 5. Right? Yeah, I was going to say 5 for Levis at best.
Okay, Cortland Sutton is probably at the same level of Hopkins, and he's in his prime right now.
Yeah, he's like a 7.
Yeah, and their quarterbacks, Zach, Bo Nix, or Jarrett Stidham. Yeah, I'm gonna say like a 3 or a 4 for those guys. We don't need to rank them, right? We need to rank them.
Now we're going to Justin Jefferson, who is a
10.
10. But he's not getting Kirk Cousins anymore. So.
Yeah.
I mean, Darnold or McCarthy. Read into it what you want. I've read that McCarthy has not been looking good in OTAs. It is what it is. But I mean,
at max, she's going to get a 6 in there. At max,
yeah.
Maybe even a 5 or 4.
I think it's the same situation the Broncos in, where you can't even really you can't even. It doesn't even matter to rank the right. Like, let's say 5. Who cares?
It's not good. It's not great.
Yeah. 4 weeks. The only one that kind of scares you a little bit is Ayuk and Purdy, but Sauce is a 10 at his position.
Yes, absolutely.
I say you need a collective 9 to really attack Sauce.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. We got Pickens, who's probably more like a 7, right?
He's like I think honestly, talent. He is a physical talent. He makes some catches.
But I think the point of Pickens is he's like Mike Williams, right? Yes. Like, he's gonna run with you. He can jump.
But he's younger and a little more durable and a little more athletic.
But what I would say though, I mean, like, right? Why is Ayuk so great? Because he's a precision, perfect route
runner. Absolutely.
None of these, like, George Pickens is not.
No,
right?
He's not polished.
If Sauce is looking at him and he's like, all I have to worry about is a go or a post. Pickens is dead. It's over.
I agree.
So that's why I think like Pickens is more of like a 6 or a 7, because he doesn't do anything other than go down the field and catch the ball at this point in his career.
To me, he's more of like a 7-8 range. I say like a 7.5.
That's fair.
Adnan's right though. It takes 2 things to really beat an elite cornerback like Sauce, right? It's the route running and the fucking speed, right?
Stop and goes too. Stop and go.
It's route running. That's route running.
Yeah.
And Pickens doesn't have enough to overcome that. And obviously Russell Wilson's fucking trash.
And the quarterback doesn't have enough to overcome it either.
And if it's for some reason Justin Fields, oh boy.
He doesn't have it either.
Okay. Yeah. Now we got Diggs, right? Diggs is probably like an 8.5.
I don't know, man. Diggs has slowed down.
But Stroud is good. I think Stroud is not quite the precision passer yet, right? I think Stroud.
He's still good though.
Great. He's got a great head for this game, right? And he knows the reads, right? But like, if you saw, I'm once again, I keep emphasizing this. If you go to the games last year where he had to play against top-notch secondaries, there was Baltimore and there were the Jets, right? And he just got destroyed by those teams
both times.
So
yeah.
What I would
so he's like a 7.
But what I would also say, right, but I would say also in relation to Diggs, right, if you look at that receiving core, and I get the CJ Stroud point, John, and I totally understand it, but I think when you look at the receiving core, Nico Collins is excellent. Tank Dell is excellent. Stephon Diggs is very good. Right, I think the challenge that you face with the Texans is that
3.
If Stroud matures, he has a lot of options. Where he's like San Francisco, the only real route runner is Ayuk. Debo isn't that, right? Yeah. Pearsall's a rookie. You look at Hopkins, only route runner on that team. Cortland Sutton, I don't think he's a great route runner. Justin Jefferson, elite route runner. Pickens, not a great route runner. Diggs, I think, is a little bit over the hill, but That's the only team that has multiple guys, right? He is a good route runner.
He's a really
but I
good
think
route
he's
runner,
lost a step, right? So it'll be interesting. That will be an interesting matchup, I think.
Okay, so let's just say that the Ayuk and Diggs matchup so far as we've gone through this list in the first 9 weeks, those are the toughest matchups right now.
Yeah,
Ayuk
Diggs and Ayuk. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no. Well, I mean, Jefferson just in terms of his
but
ability,
quarterback is part of the whole thing too.
Right.
Yeah, and there's rumors that he's going to get more money than Nick Bosa. That's a Minnesota Vikings podcast discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we got Marvin Harrison, who I mean, he's special, but he's a rookie. And
I think these two combined are probably a 7.5, right? I think combined they're a 7.5.
Kyler's good, man. We know Kyler.
He creates space with the scramble, so that does help him in this.
Right.
Well, listen, Kyler is
real
excellent,
slippery,
right? But again, like John said, Harrison is going to be the real deal, but he's a rookie, and
how much I don't know.
And it's kind of later in the season. I don't know, man. I don't see that.
It's hard to
I'm not as worried either.
It's hard to say, but I don't think that's a 9 matchup because the benchmark is 9.
No, that's what I said. Like probably
the two ones that are closest to it are Ayuk and Diggs right now. And that Marvin Harrison, Kyler Murray bit is not there yet.
Yeah, Diggs and Stroud is what did we say? That's an 8?
8.5 roughly.
Okay, that's an 8. So Diggs and Ayuk and Purdy and I'm sorry, Purdy and Ayuk and Diggs and Stroud are both 8.5. Okay.
Yeah, 8.5 to 9 in that range. Obviously, very subjective. Okay, Michael Pittman Jr. Okay, very good receiver, big body guy, right?
Still don't think he's not a route runner.
Elite route runner, a good one, but not elite. Right?
Not elite, absolutely not. Yeah.
And Anthony Richardson.
We don't even know what he is. Yeah,
how he is. That's not.
We don't really know what he is. We haven't seen enough from him. We've seen a lot of running. We've seen a lot of injury.
Yeah, very Cam Newton.
Yeah, I don't know.
Can be good.
Definitely.
Not
yeah. So like a 7.
Yeah, at best.
That's a 7.
All right, Geno Smith and DK Metcalf. We actually saw that 2 years ago when Sauce was a rookie and literally shut DK the fuck down. And Geno's best year.
and I also think this is a new coaching staff. Geno Smith isn't guaranteed anything. It could be Howell, who I think is worse, right? So either way, I don't think this is a great matchup. But I'll also say this is another team kind of like the Texans in the sense that I think JSN is going to be much better. Lockett is always dangerous. So so I think depending on like the team, like the Texans and the Seahawks, those might be games where Sauce doesn't travel as much.
Yeah.
Right. And they elect to say, let's shut down a side of the field. But like if you look at Sutton or Jefferson, it's Addison is good, but do they you know what I mean? So I think it's really going to be like a situation by situation, game by game thing. There could be games where he doesn't travel at all, right? So I think there's a lot of unknowns there. But I think combined probably like a 7.5 for the Seahawks.
Yeah. So now we're on to the Dolphins.
I mean, you just group it as 2, right? The first one is going to be harder than the second one, given the temperature, right? Because the first one is the Miami home game, right?
Yeah, playing in the heat is tough.
Tyreek's a 10.
Yep.
Hot take.
Maybe that's a 9 matchup.
Listen, I think it's a 10. Hot take. Tua with Mike McDaniel. He's healthy. It's a 10. That's going to be the toughest matchup.
I agree with that. Yeah, because Tyreek is just so oppressively fast, right?
Yeah,
like he's the fastest guy on the field in every game that he plays. He can burn the shit out of Sauce. He can burn anybody if he gets too much of a step on him. And it's just lights out, like he can take it to the house at any time. He's just really, really good, man.
So,
he was in the MVP conversation the whole friggin' year last year for a reason. He didn't hit 2,000, but he almost hit 2,000 yards, like craziness.
So let me also say this, though. to kind of like parse this out a little bit. I think the first matchup in Miami is a 10. I think the last game of the year in New York, I think that's more an 8, 8.5. Because I don't think Tua is a great cold weather quarterback. And if that game means something, we're going to be there at MetLife. It's going to be insane. The cold weather, I think that's really going to impact Tua.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of agree with that. I'd give Tua an 8 as a quarterback, so I'd still give both as a 9. Honestly,
yeah, I mean, that's fair.
It might be the most dangerous matchup. Though, right?
9. I think 9.5. I think it's a 9.5. I think 2 is an 8.5, and I think Tyreek's a 10. So
okay. Fair enough. 9, 2, 5.
Either way, it's the most dangerous matchup so far.
Very dangerous matchup. Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right, and the last one that we're going to cover because Tua Tyreek is again, it's Stafford.
Another deadly combination.
Yeah, Stafford's a 10, but the right kind of 10, right? Precision passer, right? Yep. So if there's a hole, he can hit it.
Well, right, precision passer with an absolute howitzer, so he can make every throw and put the ball where he wants to. Now,
is a route runner.
Yeah,
rocket for an arm.
Yeah, but so I think this is an interesting one, right? Because it's a team, right? End of the season, West Coast to East Coast game. You know, who knows how good the Rams are, right? Is Stafford actually going to hold up for a second straight season, right? Can Puka take a step back? Will Cooper Kupp hold up? So I feel like this one, out of every one of these, is really an almost unknown, right? Because we have no idea what they're going to look at. What is that, week 16, right? We have no idea what they're going to look like and really what Puka is and can Cooper Kupp stay healthy. So I think that's an unknown from the receiver standpoint, but I do think Stafford is a 10.
I think you can ask a lot of those same questions of the Jets. You know what I mean? So,
well, I think on the Jets, I would say on the offensive side, yes, but not on the defensive side. And the conversation here, right, is
right. No, what I'm just
right?
saying that you can kind of ask those questions of a lot of teams, but I think in this exercise, we kind of just, you know, I think we gotta assume just they're okay. You know,
so what do we think? I guess the question is, what's the floor for Puka? Because if Stafford is a 10, then what's the floor for Puka? Is it an 8? Is it a 7?
I think the floor for him is an 8.
8.5.
Right.
Nah.
The floor?
I
think
it's
about the floor. Yeah,
I think it's too early in his career to say it's definitely.
I mean, dude, he has one less year than Garrett Wilson. You knew after the first year, Garrett Wilson's a fucking dog.
True, but we still saw it though. We still have that second year.
Right.
Like
exactly.
we still got to see it. You know, if he comes out swinging,
nothing Puka did last year showed me. There's gonna be another one, but nothing showed me last year that he wasn't fucking capable.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a Cooper Kupp clone.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's a great receiver. He's, you know, he single-handedly saved my my fantasy team pickup of the year off the waiver wires for me. But no, I didn't though.
Okay. I don't know.
But anyway, you know, he's still, you know, my team got decimated, so that's, you know,
he was second team All Pro last year, so top 6 receiver last year.
He was sick. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, like, after 1 year, I don't know if I could anoint him with 8.5 as his absolute floor. He could have a sophomore slump year. You know, anything could happen. But that said, I still think he's actually like.
Well, I mean, look,
he's possibly a 9. You know, he's possibly a 9.
Right, and I mean, look, if we take Stafford as a 10 and him as an 8, we're averaging out at 9. Right. So
exactly.
No matter how we look at it, it's going to be a tough matchup.
Correct.
Right? So
yeah.
We basically mapped out 5 kind of scary matchups for Sauce, right? The Ayuk one, Diggs, Stroud, Tyreek times 2, Puka or Kupp. It could be Kupp in the end, you know.
Yeah, but you know what? Just what I wanted to say, just in general, about this whole Sauce shadowing thing. I think it's long time well overdue. I think we needed to be doing this, from day one. I think Sauce is an excellent receiver. I think it's stupid to not use him like that. Cornerback. I'm sorry. I think he's excellent at guarding receivers. He's not, he's the man. He could shut down. He could have a good day and shut down Tyreek one day. He's, and like for example, we got absolutely torched by Miami in the first game last year that they played, and it was literally because it was No, it was.
They really got torched. Remember the first game was the one where DJ Reed had the interception and they went for the hell.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was still 30-0.
And they had no offense because
it was 30-0. That's torch. They both got torched both games. Wait. Let me. No, to nothing was the. Oh yeah, that was the second game, December 17th, and then the second. Okay, so anyway, it was 30.
Was the first one. Remember that.
It was 30-0. All right. And Waddle, who is not by any means, he's fast, good route runner. He's a great receiver, but he's not by any means. He wouldn't cook Sauce like that, I don't think, right? Yeah. Tyreek might, but I don't think he would cook Sauce. It's the fact of Sauce not shadowing Waddle that game lost it for us because Tyreek was out. And Waddle went 8 for 142 and a score that game. He was their whole offense. He had more receptions and yards than any 3 receivers on Miami's team for that game. If we had Sauce on him that game, granted, we still didn't score, but they wouldn't be dropping 30 on us. They wouldn't put a 30 burger on us, if he had been shadowing. And that's why we need Sauce shadowing, and we should have been doing this since last year.
So I think, right, and I think I've said this before, and I think, for me, I just when you have someone shadow, for as spectacular as Sauce is, right? For as otherworldly as he is, if he slips and falls, if something goes wrong on the other end, right? Why
would you say that?
I think the Jets, say what?
I don't know, something bad happened to Sauce.
No, I think
he slipped and blows a coverage.
Fell on the play and blows a coverage.
Okay, thank God.
Yeah. Not it. Yeah.
I was about to go to North Carolina, play Pinehurst, and fucking back and go kill you.
So I think the reason why the Jets didn't do it in the past, right, is because they wanted to do everything they could to keep the score close and not take chances on defense because they knew the offense could not score, right? Now I think with the fact that Rodgers stays healthy, even if Tyrod Taylor has to play, they can trust this offense to pick up the defense. So I think you're not just going to see Sauce shadowing.
DJ Reed going one side versus the other, man. Big difference.
Listen, I think he'll be fine, right? I think that's overblown and overrated, to be honest. To me, I think that you also have an opportunity here to be able to be more exotic with your blitzing, to be more exotic with your coverages, because you don't have to worry that if you go down 7-0, the game's over, right? And I also think if you look at Mike McDaniel, right? Offensive geniuses they're playing this season. Him, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan. You stay static with this left-right corner thing, they're going to eat you alive because there's nothing for them to worry about. So you got to mix things up, show different coverages, have Sauce and man, doing all of those things, because when you play the top offensive minds, if you're static, they're going to eat you alive, And so I think that's kind of a big thing for them, is to become a little bit less predictable on defense. And I think they'll be willing to do that now that they believe they can trust the offense.
Yeah.
Fair enough. We're gonna cut low on time. I know we have one more topic. Can we save it for next week, or do you want to do it now?
No, it's fine. Whatever you guys want.
Yeah, I think we can save it. Yeah, we can.
Save it. Okay, so we actually have something else to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then I guess we can go to that old final thoughts. I like final thoughts, but you know what? You guys go. You get interrupted, and then when I go, I get interrupted completely.
Yeah. Well, just I'm just really excited, with regard to Rodgers. Glad that he's fully unrestricted. Glad that we're seeing, him be him. He also gave that interview recently where he says that, at this point in his career, he's going to beat you with his mind. And, he's not running around 300 yards on his feet like he was in his earlier days. Now he's going to, sit and dissect you, which is exactly what I want to hear, because he's older. He's 40. He's coming off an Achilles tear. He doesn't need to be running around doing all this crazy stuff. And if you look, that's kind of how he got hurt. He was extending a play. So maybe now we'll be able to create more of a pocket for him now that we have the line for it. So I'm very happy with how things are kind of looking. I love that he was so proficient in OTAs. Obviously, yes, it's just shirts and sneakers. It's just shirts and helmets, but still, I'm it's a good sign. And fuck Chardavius Ward for what he said about Garrett Wilson. It absolutely was shade, and I stand on that. He knows who the hell Garrett Wilson is, and after this year, he definitely will know who the fuck Garrett Wilson is, because I know Garrett Wilson is coming with the chip on his shoulder to San Francisco. So I definitely hope I hope we end up winning that game. That would be just amazing. But I hope it's at least close. So we can get these guys to put some respect on our name.
I want to blow the fuck out.
Yeah, whatever. Exactly.
Sorry.
That's fine. I don't give a shit. I'm not like you.
It's like every fucking time with me, man. Adnan, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, echo Monty, what I had said earlier. I think the most important thing is that, the guys that we absolutely need to be healthy for the Jets, Aaron Rodgers, Tyron Smith, they were unencumbered. They were full go. They showed up. They participated in pretty much everything, so I think that's a really good sign that neither of them are limited and they're ready to go. I think the Sauce conversation is really interesting. Like I just said, the more variables they can throw at a defense, the better, or at an offense, I'm sorry, because it just gives them more for an offensive coordinator to think about with game plan, in-game play calling. So I think Sauce traveling is a great idea. And just looking forward to, the middle of June, just a couple of weeks here, really, where there's mandatory minicamp. So we'll get to see, Reddick. We'll get to see all of the healthy guys, and it's going to be an interesting time as Jet fans. We should be really excited. One thing we didn't touch on that I will throw out here is embrace the fact that as of right now, the Jets are favored in 14 of their 17 games, right? Embrace all of that. Enjoy it. Don't run from it. Don't worry about, I want to be under the radar. Rex Ryan said it. You want the pressure. Because if you don't have the pressure, then nobody really cares about you, right? So I think these are all good things. They're all positive things. And we have, good things to look forward to. Next thing up is in June. So be excited. And I think we're going to see a very different team this season.
And it's actually funny because the way I was picking was based on spreads, I thought. I'm just curious real quick. Those underdog games, it's probably just San Francisco. I'm guessing one of the Miami games.
And one of the Buffalo games.
Buffalo game. Yeah, the Buffalo away.
It's at San Francisco, at Miami, at Buffalo.
Yep, those are my definite on my column. Those are my definite losses for the Jets too.
I wouldn't say definite, but yeah, I would say more likely than not. But it's okay. I mean, like everything's kind of going smoothly this offseason for these Jets, right?
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood. Yeah. I mean, it's not gonna last, but that's okay. And we'll just laugh through it all again. But you know what? Like, it feels a little different, right? It does feel a little different. There's it's not as much, not too noisy, but it's enough noise, right? Which is good, right? Because this team has high aspirations, right? And then Sauce, also, we forgot to mention this too. Sauce made a comment that he thinks this team has everything it takes to win a championship. And I think anyone that's, I would say, a rational enough Jets fan, right? Not like, same old Jets, regardless of everything that happens to them, right? I think every rational Jets fan or any non-Jets fan actually that looks at this team on paper, right? It looks like it can do it. And we just got to hope that it happens. And while we hope for that, fuck the Patriots, fuck the Dolphins, fuck the Bills.
And go Jets always.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Peace.